Right, so as we know, Israel are having a little bit of trouble with their shipping right now, aren't they? As the Houthis in Yemen target Israel's shipping traffic passing through the narrow Bab-el-Mandeb Strait, which forms the southern entrance to the Red Sea and leads up to Israel's southern port of Eilat. The port has been practically shut down of late as a result of that, such has been the success of that Yemeni blockade, and shipping companies who are operating in and out of Israel have instead rerouted their operations, having to sail all the way around Africa so they can deliver to Israel via their ports in the eastern Mediterranean. But one of those has recently been the target of attack as well, and for a while it was something of a mystery as to who did that, but at last someone has put their hand up and admitted to it. It's not necessarily who you might think either. Right, so the Houthis in Yemen are still causing Israel a massive headache when it comes to their shipping. Well, if they would just stop their bombardment and genocide in Gaza, it would help, wouldn't it? It would all go away. But they won't. Netanyahu's career depends on that, and he places that above the economic well-being of his own country, as well as the notion of there ever being a Palestinian state. Well, the US have sent naval forces in to defend Netanyahu's career, in effect, against those supporting the people whose lands he and Israel occupy. Iran, having done likewise too, now offering Yemen some support in turn. Indeed, as the mainstream media keep telling us, those Iran-backed Houthis, but always neglecting to say Western-backed Israel in the name of impartiality as well, of course. Well, those actions by the Houthis, as we know, are causing Israel issues via their southernmost port of Eilat. It is driving Israeli trade around the coast of Africa, across the Mediterranean, in order to access the Israeli ports of Haifa and Jaffa instead. So Israel is still able to trade, but it's taking quite the economic hit when all of its trade partners, particularly those in Asia and Australasia, are having to make a massive detour. Still, 2 accessible ports is better than none though, right? Well, I'm coming to that now, because the other day the port of Haifa got hit by a missile. Now, the port of Haifa lies in Haifa Bay, on the northernmost edge of Israel's Mediterranean coastline. It's only about 30 miles from the border with Lebanon, and this strike on Haifa came just 5 days after the assassination of Saleh al-Aruri, the Hamas leader targeted in a block of flats in southern Beirut, in Lebanon. It is assumed by Israel still to have done that, though they are still denying that. So the strike, which seemingly came out of nowhere, but being as close to Lebanon as Haifa is, Lebanon, Hezbollah, were seen as likely culprits. The targeting of another port, with Eilat running at very limited capacity because of the Houthis in the Red Sea, were others turning to Israel's other ports in the Mediterranean next. Israel, as is becoming very obvious, does not get on with its Arab neighbours. This is historic. It goes back to the formation of Israel itself by the West, as it was, a Western project as it largely was, a Zionist political project also. The Nakba, the Six-Day War, occupying lands in Palestine and Syria, and at one point Egypt and Jordan as well, all make for a history of not making very many friends with those around you. Therefore, Israel's economy is massively dependent on shipping and trade with countries further afield. To blockade or put out of commission Israel's Mediterranean ports, as Eilat has been in the south, would decimate their economy completely. So you can see why these make for good targets. But again, I'll make the point, if Israel would just stop its genocide and withdraw from Gaza, all this will stop. Instead, Israel have carried on and have been taking even more pot shots at having a go at both Lebanon and Syria as well now. How many countries can they go to war with at once? And why actually should the West keep supplying them with arms when they act like that and kill civilians indiscriminately as they do so? Even the US is getting pissed off with them for that at this point, because the project must be kept going for their interests. But this is making them look awfully bad as well. Did you see that footage of Biden getting protested at most recently? It wasn't a good look for him, having them all marched away and then saying, oh, I'm doing the best I can. You're not, sunshine, because you could put a stop to this immediately, but you won't. You won't stop arming them either. And the same goes for everyone else who's still arming them as well. But to come back to that missile strike, as easy it is to look at Lebanon, or Hezbollah more accurately I should say, as almost certainly being responsible for the hit on Haifa, it wasn't them, because the responsible party has now said it was us. And actually the missile strike came all the way from Iraq. Responsibility was claimed by the Iraqat Hezbollah al-Nujaba resistance movement. Try saying that 3 times fast. It's easier to say Islamic resistance, isn't it? Which they also go by. As they deployed a new long-range cruiser missile called the Al-Arqab as a direct response to the relentless massacres inflicted by the occupying entity on Palestinian civilians, including vulnerable groups such as children, women and the elderly. I think we can safely assume if Israel carry on, they can expect more to come from Iraq, which, when you consider that Iraq lies beyond Jordan and Syria to the east of Israel, how quickly can they react to something from their coming? Completely bypass them. It had to go through Jordanian airspace as well, and it managed to do that too. The Islamic resistance spokesperson Hussein al-moussawi spoke to Lebanese al-mayadeen TV, which reported that the axis of resistance is determined to disrupt US scenarios in the region and thwart the occupying Israeli regime's schemes in Gaza, Moussawi asserted. Moussawi also underlined that the resistance front is capable of withstanding the ongoing battle for a long time because of its resources and military potential. Yet another state actor on Israel's doorstep. I think it's fair to say that when Israel lies within Iraq's military reach and they've clearly spotted the weakness in Israel's economic reliance on sea trade, the Yemenis made it obvious via their blockade of the Red Sea how much it hurts Israel. The ports of Haifa and clearly Jaffa are within military strike range, so taking them out via airstrike would cause Israel colossal problems. In practice, while a blockade might be preferable and less damaging to these ports, there is of course the small matter of the UK military presence on nearby Cyprus, heavily used by the US as well right now. Why? Well, they won't tell us that, will they? But which would quickly deal with any blockade attempt on those Mediterranean ports, I am sure. So unfortunately that leads to a more permanent, more damaging alternative in the form of airstrikes. Of course, the people who will suffer most if such things come to pass are the people, mostly innocent. Certainly most Israelis have been protesting the actions of their government here. Haifa was a warning shot. It's not like Netanyahu isn't being told. He's got it coming from all angles locally to Israel. I personally hope that the International Court of Justice orders a ceasefire off the back of the South Africa case beginning on Thursday, and that Israel listen above all else, because otherwise so many countries now in the Middle East are going to target Israel for not stopping their assault on Gaza. And how much more widely things could escalate from there, I dread to think. Meanwhile, as far as Iraq and Islamic resistance go, they've been demanding the expulsion of the US from Iraq for some time, the US maintaining a presence there, which on the same day as the strike on Haifa saw a US drone strike on Iraq's Popular Mobilization Unit headquarters, which saw a Nujaba resistance leader killed along with two others. It's gone down like a lead balloon, really has. Arrangements for the end of the US presence in the country are now being drawn up by Iraq's Prime Minister, a chap called Mohammed al-Sudani, and he said the attack was a dangerous escalation and a violation of Iraq's sovereignty. The mess in the Middle East just seems to be getting worse. The US is being no help whatsoever. It's getting to the point where a ceasefire from Israel would have further reaching benefits for more than just the people of Gaza right now. All eyes on South Africa and their genocide case on Thursday. The detail of their submission is as incredible as it is horrifying. And if you aren't up to date on what exactly South Africa are up to, then you should absolutely watch this video here next. And I'll hopefully catch you on the next vid. Cheers, folks.